This is your host, Pete Moore, and I am pleased and humbled to announce the launch of my one and only book, Time to Win Again. 52 takeaways from playing and watching team sports to ensure your business success. Those of you who know me personally, and anyone who listens to Halo Talks for any length of time, know that I am an avid sports fan and a big believer in the value of team sports. What I've seen over the past 25 years helping businesses grow, raising capital, being an entrepreneur myself, and coaching and mentoring executives in the sector, it's the lessons learned on the field perfectly apply to business. Entrepreneurs, executives, managers, you name it. Every company that's a strong company has got a good team. It's a quick read. There's awesome illustrations in there from our good friend Mark at Cruelty Free Cartoons. If you go to integritysq.com, enter your email address, and we will send you information on the book and the Entrepreneur's Survival Kit as well. Be great. Take names. Go Halo.
This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC, on location with native consultant from Dallas, Texas, Hensley. She is a guru in the boutique space, and we are going to learn what the challenges are and how she's helping people succeed and thrive in this new normal. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So why don't you give your background? You've worked with some big brands. You've built some strong companies and sales teams, and then sounds like you've dedicated yourself to helping the independents shine and roar.
Yeah, exactly. So I was one of those unique people that kind of knew what I wanted to do basically out of the womb. I knew I wanted to be in fitness and was a competitive athlete, and then went to school for sport management and applied physiology here at SMU. And through this, found Equinox. I started at the front desk. I think I lied. I know I lied and said I was 18 and I was 17 because I was just hungry to get in the industry. This was right before boutique fitness started waking up. And so at the time, Equinox was really the pinnacle of luxury, high quality group fitness. So I was with them for 7 years. I was one of their top membership sales people, and then account managers. And then was recruited by Pure Barre at the time in 2015, 2016 to then build out their sales programming. And that was my first foray into fitness franchising and boutique fitness, and really witnessing that boutique fitness owners, by and large, were passionate about what they did, but didn't necessarily have the business acumen to scale their businesses or remove themselves as owner-operators. So I then moved to Club Pilates as their national sales director. I came on at location 120, and then when I left, we were a little under 700.
Wow.
So the great thing about being there was, seeing Club Pilates become exponential and then exponential, really using Club Pilates as the mothership and template for building out the sales infrastructure for all of their other brands. So Pure Barre, Cycle Bar, Row House, so on and so forth. And then over COVID-19, I think a lot of us had revelations, but as I was steering, 700 studios through how to not just make it out alive, but continue to drive revenue through studio closure, began to witness independent competitors just dropping like flies. So saw individual studio owners kind of throw stuff at the wall and see what stuck. And I knew I had the information and the wherewithal to help them come out of this alive and continue, thriving. And so I left Exponential at the end of last October. It was always my goal to just work individually with studio owners. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to start a business. And it's taken off. So we're now a team of 7. We worked with over 100 studios. And we really specialize in not just helping you sell your product, right? Because every studio owner thinks we have the best workout and we have the best community. And it's like, well, that's not going to make me, hand over my credit card and allow you to charge $250. So really helping you determine what problem you are solving with your clientele, and then building a coinciding sales and marketing infrastructure that supports that, and a hiring and staffing model that allows you to wear the hats that you want to own as a business owner, instead of every hat, which is the typical for a studio owner.
Sure. So, if we rewind and go back to Equinox, what are some of the foundational building blocks that you learned there? Obviously, one of the premier companies in the space. I wouldn't say if you want to go to a high-end club, like it's not a hard sell for Equinox to, get your credit card. But at the same time, there's probably, processes and like psychology. And so give us a little insight into what you've learned over the years and what's kind of like transformed you into how you think.
Totally. I should mention that I was passionate about fitness, but I didn't know, at 17 that I was going to be in sales. And I wanted to get into management, and, Equinox said you have to start selling memberships first. And I didn't want to do that. Did it kind of, whatever. And ended up obviously being really good at it. But through this, witnessed that any successful fitness business, and I would go so far as to say any successful business in general, operates as a sales-driven business with a conceptual overlay. So Equinox is a sales-driven business with a marketing support, right? Marketing feeds sales. And then it's the product it happens to be selling is fitness, right? That's the overlay. But it's not a fitness business with a sales component. And so from the very beginning, understanding who was our target client, how were you capturing their emotion so that it didn't matter if you were charging $100 or $400, you had them in the palm of your hand. The rest of it was really just, extra credit once they walked through the door.
How much with Equinox, and if you go back to when you were there, they probably had a lot of those really funky ads that were a little bit trendy and like it may just stop and figure out like, well, okay, what's going on in this pictorial that they've put together, or it's Equinox, it's life, it's it's not fitness, right? So how was that embraced by everyone, and did everyone buy into that, or did some people say like, hey, this is like, where are we going with this, or is this too far, or is it like shockingly poignant to the point where okay, like this is working, like but it doesn't seem like it would for a long period of time, but it did. So talk us about that.
I think fitness has gone through this evolution, especially like COVID has expedited it, but mental health and becoming all inclusive, and it's for how you feel instead of how you look, but that's not where fitness was even 10 years ago. And so Equinox really, I don't want to say exploited that, but it was highly sexualized. And I don't even think their intent was to get you to resonate with that. It was enough to pique your interest. So you're like, what is this thing all about? Let me at least try it out. And that's what any good fitness studio does now, right? Is you can't explain what you do and how you do it in your experience on a piece of paper, but you can get the consumer interested enough to just check you out. And then from there, that's when the real sales process happens. And I think Equinox did just that, right? Like, it's not fitness, it's life. And there was someone like jumping over a fence or, half
somebody
naked.
sitting
like,
half naked in like a velvet, like oversized chair or something, wearing like a crown. I don't know. I still have those images imprinted in my Dropbox brain for some reason. I don't even know what it was, but it shocked me at the time. And I was like, okay, I guess it's working. Like, you sell memberships at that price and that volume. So when you take a look at Equinox and you say, all right, this is a way to capture someone's attention, right? They never, at least in my history, I've never seen an ad for Equinox with the dollar price on it.
Correct.
And Restoration Hardware, if you go into that store, they don't have price tags on anything because they want you to go into a room and say, like, feel like you live there. Like, this isn't a shopping experience. This is like a lifestyle decision, right? They say I'm a love style company. Like, you got to love me, and I'll love you, and I will provide these awesome upholstery and tapestries and everything else design. So, how did that kind of change, or when you go into like Pure Bar, and we were an investor in Extend Bar for a period of time, we've got some others, and it was always about like, all right, what do we sell in the membership at? What's the price point? And what you touched on before was, I'm like qualifying what somebody needs for me.
Yep.
And then let's talk about what that's worth to them, and then what my price is. So talk about how you're able to kind of hold the line on that and do that with confidence, because a lot of operators in this space are just like, look, let's just sell price because it's like the easiest thing for me to figure out how to do.
Yeah. I think it's learning to sell the intangible. So it's learning, what makes Pete tick, what's his specific prerogative for walking through the door. And that's through asking you questions. It's a time-consuming process.
Right.
But then once I have captured that specific emotion, there's no dollar sign attached to that, right? Because if I can promise you confidence, if I can promise you security, if I can promise you lack of pain, and then I say, how much would you pay for that? $250 sounds like nothing, right?
Exactly. That's what, I joke around that, Planet Fitness is great. Their business model works, okay? But it costs less to join a Planet Fitness than it costs to buy a turkey wrap in Manhattan. So I'm just like, what's the price value? And also, what do you want? Like somebody said to me today, like, hey, you giving out these books? I'm like, no, I'm not giving them out. Like, you're going to pay for them, because if you pay for something, then you're going to value it. And you're actually going to read it, right? You're not just going to throw it in like the exhibitor, bag that you got, right? So, Club Pilates at $250, a month.
Yeah.
How many workouts does that come with? 8 per month, or is it really unlimited?
It really depends on the market. I mean, obviously, a membership in Manhattan is going to be different than Scottsdale, Arizona. But by and large, I would say $250 is probably closer to the unlimited membership rate.
Right. So why has Pilates been able to hold that price point versus other studios seem to, whether they get on ClassPass or whether they, go on these $199 unlimiteds, and then it's like, you do the math and you're like, oh my God, it's like $7 per visit. Like this engine doesn't work that way.
I think I'll use Club Pilates as a specific example, but I think Pilates and even similar concepts, if they can prove their viability and longevity, and the consumer understands the sustainability of a Pilates routine, right? Regardless of if you take 2 months off and you go back into Pilates, that's going to be, I don't want to say a little easier, but you can jump back in a little bit easier than taking 2 months off of, Barry's Bootcamp workouts. So it meets you where you are. And I think the consumer right now is looking for something that's not necessarily entry level, but can be customized and personalized to what specifically they're looking for. And Pilates has always been able to meld into that.
I want to take a minute and tell our audience about 2 awesome workout recovery products I've been using for the last 18 months from higherdose.com, leader in infrared technology for athletes like all of us are. We're an investor in the company. That's not why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because it works. Got an infrared sauna blanket. I hop in there. I'll listen to some podcasts, burn 800 calories, get a mad detox, and a PEMF, which is a pulsed electromagnetic field crystal mat that I lay on, and I recalibrate my cells to the normalized level of the earth. If you got somebody you like and you're looking for a pretty awesome gift, they will love it. You could use this code HALO75, get $75 off, and you will not be disappointed. Higherdose.com, promo code HALO75. And now let's get back to our regularly scheduled program.
So jumping into your consulting business, and I'll give an analogy first. Sometimes some people come to us and say, hey, I want to go raise money.
Yeah.
And then we do the work and we're like, you're not ready to raise money. Do you have 100 studios that you work with?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think I know you already. You want to help everyone succeed.
Yeah.
And no challenge is too insurmountable, right? So I'm going to do everything. So do you take on every client, or do you say, hey, look, I looked at your income statement, like you got to fix your rent line because like I can't do anything because your rent's like double what it should be. Or like this location doesn't have the right visibility. So as much as I can help you, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and my team of 7 could really like do the best we can. Like this isn't a business that's going to work, and I don't want you to be disappointed. So how do you think about either qualifying your own clients or telling people like, hey, cut your losses, go open up another location, or just like this, I use this term, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Now you got a lot of experience. Now go do something else.
Yeah. Good question, loaded question. So I'll mention first that the 100 studios is over we've been, quote, operating for 11 months. So at any given time, we're definitely not working with 100 studios. I don't think it's not a cookie cutter recipe, right? And so how I work with a studio, or how we work with a studio with 50 spin bikes who's brand new to market, is going to be very different from a 12 reformer studio that's been in the market for 3 years and has 300 existing studios. And what's your overhead? What's your rent, right? What do you want to be taking in? All of that's going to, I don't want to say indicate or dictate, quote, whether or not we can take you on, because we typically can, but it's more like what homework needs to be done, right? Like if you don't have a functioning website, or you don't have a logo, or you don't have a brand identity, then we don't have anything to sell. We can make templates, we can make a manual, we can make scripts, but none of that's going to work if there's no foundational message that we have, right? Or if you say, I want to open a studio, but you haven't even looked at spaces for a lease, again, I can't sell air. So it's not necessarily we can't work with you, but typically if it's premature, we might give some homework to do prior, or in tandem with our coaching, so that it is as effective as it can be.
Gotcha. So what are some of the top 3 frustrations that people have that you solve?
I know they're I'm going to try and be gentle here. They need to compete on price, and they need to compete on being on a ClassPass or a Studio Hop or a Groupon or something, because their competitors are, and they feel like that's what they need to do to get their name out there. And then it's like a treadmill. Once they're on there, they don't understand how to get off. Yeah. And that can be cannibalizing their own membership base. So I would say that's not the overarching issue, but that's definitely a crutch we try to look to pull out at some point, right?
Let's stick with that one because obviously this ClassPass Mind Body deal just got announced today. ClassPass, the original business plan was to say to the studios, hey, let me get your excess inventory. You got 2 or 3 spots.
Totally.
And I will I'll help you monetize that, and hopefully that'll turn into a lead that turns into a member. And then things got off the rails, like you're talking about, where some of these studios now had 80% of their members coming from ClassPass. They still have to pay the rent in the operations. They're getting like 50% off their 10-pack or whatever the math is. And the income statement doesn't work, you know, when you're doing that kind of volume and you're not getting that price per visit. So how have you basically coached people through and say, look, I got to wean you off of this? Yeah. And how does that work? Or do you just pull the Band-Aid off?
Typically, we don't pull the Band-Aid off, because that's like pulling the rug out from under. Like if that's your sole or 80% of where you're getting income, that's not fair, right? But I think it's getting them to understand that in order to reclaim your business, you can't be held hostage by another company who could change their terms and conditions at any point, right? And so it's understanding that we're going to go, instead of trying to convert those on ClassPass, right? Because ClassPassers tend to want to stay on ClassPass. It's going for a clientele that isn't yet on ClassPass and getting them to purchase a membership, and then getting to that point where you have enough of that momentum financially coming in that you can afford to wean yourself off of ClassPass.
And I don't know what the terms and conditions are. And look, we like what ClassPass is doing, because they're bringing in hundreds of thousands of people that would never even step foot into the studio space. So that's great. I love what they're doing. But they kind of started off as Switzerland, and then they turned into like, I'm Walmart. You're like, I'm buying like a product on my shelf, and I'm going to get it for the least price. And that's how their business model works. When you try to make money instead of burning capital, you got to get your inventory costs down. But when you take a look at what they're doing, is there a path towards really using ClassPass as a lead generator, as like an excess inventory, sales force, and then have someone like you come in and say, look, this is how you take a ClassPass member and turn them into a member?
100%.
And is that like a playbook that you have, or is like each one's customized, I'm assuming, but talk us through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we look at each client, we'll look at where they're getting their leads today. what the quality of those leads looks like, what the conversion of those leads looks like. And we'll look at ClassPass based on digital based versus, member referrals, and the numbers kind of paint a picture themselves, right? If they see that we've historically converted 3 or 4 class passers, then we're going to get higher ROI focusing on elsewhere. But there is such a high number of class passers that it is diversifying the messaging that you are coming at them with, right? Because they don't want to be pitched a membership. They like the variety of ClassPass. But then also understanding, if in the future there's an opportunity to perhaps limit the usage of your studio on ClassPass, right? Because if I can essentially mimic a quote trial that a lead would receive on ClassPass, and then I can upsell that ClassPasser to say, you like what you got, right? In the 1 or 2 classes you took this month, now let's do this twice a week. That makes you a candidate for X membership. I think that's where the opportunity is, instead of kind of haphazardly trying to pluck at class passers and sell them on your product, because that's what every fitness studio thinks they're going to do.
Right. So I don't remember the name of this, but you will. In Dallas, there's a regional ClassPass
Studio Hop.
So do you see more like factions of studios to come together, and maybe you could talk about like what XPass is doing or was putting together? I'm assuming you had your hand in that as well on the, moving people around in the same system. And do you see like in another analogy is like in the movie industry, God bless them, they basically took all the screens and instead of them each selling advertising, they basically took like the top 5 studio companies, basically like dumped all their screens into a public company.
Yeah.
Called like Cinevision or something. And then basically they own that relationship now.
Yeah.
So how do you see this evolving, and how optimistic are you about, like an XPass or like 10 studios coming together and saying, hey, we'll kind of create our own little, movement around the system?
I am optimistic. I think as long as those multi-conglomerate entities like an XPass can keep studio owners at the forefront of who they're trying to benefit, then this can be beneficial. I remember one of the Club Pilates owners that we worked with, he also owned a cycle bar, and he piecemealed kind of a dual membership. And I was like, God, that's such a good idea, and it could be done at the independent studio level, right? Like if I have a neighboring yoga studio and I'm a cycling studio, that's an incredible benefit for my members to be able to sell like a dual cycling and yoga, because you do get to the point, ideally, if you're a high functioning, profitable studio where you don't want your members to come every single day. So to be able to say, hey, on your off days, you can go to X studio and we have a partnership with them. I think that's where we will see, I don't want to say the independent studio industry move, but they'll need to come together in that regard to be able to compete with the XPasses and the ClassPasses and the Studio Hops without, bleeding themselves dry.
Right. So going back to one thing that you said before, when I started in this industry 20 years ago, one of the big marketing tools was before and after pictures.
Yeah.
And actually those speak 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
I want to look like that, and you have a path to get me to those types of results. And then things just kind of got based on price. Then things maybe just got a little weird, like you didn't know what people were advertising and like what their goal was. Maybe they're just trying to drive traffic. So what's like the basic building blocks of these people want to get results? They want to change their life, whether it's mental, physical, what have you, and get down to like the DNA of like what's making that purchase decision. Why they walk in here? Like, I don't think a lot of people qualify what somebody wants. And you kind of touched upon that. I just want you to expand on that, because I think it's really important that I don't want to just sell you a membership. I want to know what's going on in your mind right now. What can I help you with?
Totally. And I think it's like, I use, unfortunately, like either the sorority analogy or the football analogy. Like the Ravens do the same thing as the Niners, do the same thing as the Chiefs, right? But like, why are you loyal to one team versus the other? And it's because you somehow resonate with that community, right? So they're not selling you football. They're selling you like, these are like-minded individuals who will surround you and get behind you and you can cheer with. And I think that's where we have opportunity as fitness studio owners is to meet our lead or our client where they are and show them you don't have to try to be part of this community. You already are. You
Right.
already relate with us without doing anything differently. And if you can break down those barriers, because fitness does have this connotation of being everything you said, right? Image centric and price driven. I think if we can just focus on relatability and the emotion that comes out of that, that's when this whole sales process becomes a hell of a lot easier.
Yep, I gotcha. So in closing here, you got any good business quotes or any kind of life quotes that you like to think about or tell people, or you got a list somewhere in your phone, maybe?
But I think it's cliche, but this industry is so saturated that fitness owners are clamoring to make it evident why, their yoga studio is better than the yoga studio across the street. And so I think just focusing on selling the problem you solve and not the product you have. So what's your why, not what's your product?
Got it. Awesome. Well, thanks for everything you're doing. You're helping a lot of people get through this crazy time, but I feel like we're on the tail end, and I think we're going to come out stronger. So look forward to working with you, and thanks for coming on Halo Talks.
Thank you, Pete.
Awesome.